The floor is for you. For you, decide who's starting before. Otherwise, I will say the lady first.
No, that I will start because I was many times in the meeting, and so many people know me. I'm Detlef Koehler from Starke Stuecke, based in Frankfurt, and also running together with other people's theater company, which is called Teatro Grüne Soße, which is a specialty of to eat from our region. So first, I want to explain something because it's chain reaction, internalization of the festivals, about the festivals in Germany. So there are 4 main international festivals in Germany. I could start with Panoptikum, which had the advantage to happen because it was in January. Then we had Starke Stuecke, and we had to shut down Starke Stuecke the day before the opening. So we had really stress for the upcoming 2 weeks after this shutdown. And so the decision for Starke Stuecke next year is that it will be a mix of the old program, but also to have the opportunity to give new developments which are now rehearsing during Corona stadium, and we can expect some maybe interesting results and to invite them to the festival. So maybe there will be new windows of artistic solutions for the future in the upcoming festival, but also there will be a part of the program which we wanted to make this year in the upcoming or in the next year. Then I had a phone call yesterday with Schöne Aussicht in Stuttgart, and they cancelled all their program for this year. It would have been in June or end of June, and so they decided to make the whole festival as it was planned for the next year. And so beside of one production, they made all these contracts and with the artists for the next year. So they only in great letters they only change the year of the program. So it will be not 20, it will be 21. And I asked Christian what will be when there is no vaccination, and he said there will be vaccination because that's what we later on. And then we have upcoming next year in May the great international, not international, the great national meeting of the German theater, which is called Augenblick-mal. And beside of that, I want to mention that all these festivals in Germany are no fairs. So it's only meeting of artists by aesthetics and maybe for the audience, but there is it's not a marketplace for the companies. And so that's a difference for all the other, or for many festivals which we have in the world. And for Augenblick-mal, which is also in participation of Architect, I would give to Michael that they can tell something.
One information, because before Mike tells us about Augenblick-mal, sto traducendo a spanne nella chat per chi ne avesse bisogno. Detlef, if you want to precise the names of the festival that I have been putting like roughly in the chat, you will be more than welcome. Thank you, Mike.
Augenblick-mal is the only really big national festival in Germany, and we are sort of struggling with making new plans because when it happens in Berlin and venues are very far apart, and you always travel like an hour from one venue to the next. And at the moment, we don't have a solution. There's first of all, there's no solution for how the audience can travel to venues. It's a big problem for how can young people even get to the theater. And because we don't know how the situation will develop, we don't know how much space we can actually plan with, how we can use the space we have, and what kind of production we can invite and show. So it's all, because this festival it's all in the planning. It is flexible, but it's all, also we are planning towards an unknown future. We don't know what things will be like, and we don't know what the theaters will be like when we meet in Berlin. But you're all invited. I think there's not
it's a national festival, but you say that we are all invited in the sense that you have and you are pretending to have a program for the international delegates also.
Well, there will be a program for international delegates insofar as at least we're planning it again to have all the productions subtitled or accessible in some way so that everyone can be part of the discussions, because the discussions are usually sort of have a more general approach to what TYA is all about. And also there's usually some interest in the Berlin-based companies, and you can meet artists, and while it's not a fair, you can still meet people to work with in the future. Yeah, so it has an international aspect to it, but it's not an international festival. And the people who are selecting the shows are now selecting them or watching only videos, which is of course difficult. So if we can't go back to live performances, this will also be a struggle we have to deal with, how we even select shows for the festival. But I think Detlef wanted to continue, right?
Yes, so I would now to continue with this system of theater we have in Germany. Maybe not everybody knows about this. We have many theaters, and we have many governmental theaters. So you can say every big town has also a state or governmental theater, which is financed nearly 100% by the state. So, or by the town or by the federal institutions. And so they had during this crisis, they were paid and they could work on their things as normal. They could not rehearse because there was rules for rehearsing, or some houses were totally closed, and so they were in home office, but they had no economical problems. Then we have on the other side a very large amount of theaters, free theater, especially in the sector for children and youngsters, which are mobile theaters, and they are really affected by also economically. So we will see. So it's nearly the same situation as in Italy. So there will be many companies who maybe not survive this crisis economically.
Actually,
on the other side,
when you say that those are mobile theater, what do you mean? That they live and they survive thanks to the touring?
Yeah.
Or,
so
okay.
they are touring companies, and they going to schools and different venues, and so they are invited by these cities which has no own theater, mainly the smaller cities. And on the other side, we have a good supporting system in Germany, and but they will not pay what the theaters do not earn or would have earned in the time. So this is a bit of problem of supporting. Till today, they have no, in politics, they have not found a real solution for that problem. And so there are some theaters like my company, which is in between. So we are off theater, but we are very well supported by our local government. And so the part of our income by touring is about 20 or 25%. So we will have some touring and in the second half of the year, and we had some touring in the beginning of the year, and so there will be less income for this year, but it will not be an economically tragic situation. But what happened since a week? We are in phase, you call it 3, I don't know. For us, yeah, it's open. So we have in Germany theaters which performs, and which perform under the new rules, which means distance to everybody, distance on the stage, distance in the audience. And so, if, for example, the house in which Theater Grüne Soße normally performs in Frankfurt, they give performances for 24 spectators, and they can act because a part of the company who's also performing there, there are 2 families, and so they can meet on the stage without problem, because it's allowed that they meet two families on stage and getting an exchange. And but they do these performances with a parallel streaming. So it's some kind of mixture of live theater, but it's presented also in the web, and you can buy tickets for it, but it's not really an economic situation, because you have an income, I don't know, €100 per performance. And but the experience, and there was another theater in Frankfurt also performing for 20 spectators, and it was a dance performance, and there was an article that it was so very exclusive on one side, but on the other side very intense for the people who were part of this show. So because it was very close, and maybe that is one of the results of that crisis, that we have performances for very small audience, which in high intensity. So that is nice for the people who can get in there, but what it's about the people who cannot get in, and what it's about the economics. So this question remains. Yeah, talking about what is happening to theaters in Frankfurt, in Germany, I only have a small view to some theaters around me, but there are many discussions, as we had also in this Zoom meeting, about video and digital mediation, and so I think the artists are working really hard in getting new formats and new ideas, how to manage all these conditions which we have, and what means to work under the rule of distance. And maybe we can find new solutions for meetings, for example, with this Zoom. We can find new solutions on stage with solo productions for small audience. We can find solutions with film, and so there are many ideas, but what is for many people clear, it will not be as in former times. So that will be or can last a very long time, and in that time we have to develop new forms. Maybe I can give to Maike again, because
I don't think we'll go on for too long, but Detlef asked me to also tell you a bit about what we are doing. And last week we were on the phone, Detlef and I said, oh, Detlef, we have to talk again, because I don't know what it will be like in a week's time. So actually the situation changes every day, and no one can plan. And the board of Architects Germany has set up 2 working groups. One that deals with cultural policy, so we write a lot of letters. We try to address the people who make the budgets, because the budgets for next year and the following years are those that worry us. And we try to campaign for the rights of children to take part in the arts, and we try to make everyone aware that they need funding for this, and that we claim that 25% of all the arts funding should go to projects for children and young people, just to make it, put it in a simple formula. So that's what we are trying to distribute to all levels in the government.
Sorry, since I was translating, but I'm sure that repetition are useful in that context.
Yes, all right.
What are you doing in this context? Asking to all the theater to do something. This advocacy activity. Can you explain it better? Like which format or which structure you have given to that?
We are first of all, we are doing a very old-fashioned thing. We are writing letters and to people who make decisions. And we are also trying to look left and right who might be allies in this fight. So we have made contact to the doctors that take care of children and young people, because they have also come forward and said that children's rights are not in the public focus, and that so we are thinking of doing something together. And also we know that there's still a lot of discussion about new government support programs for the future, for artists, for everyone who hasn't got any income at the moment. And that's where we claim, if you set up new support programs, please make sure that 25 to 30% of these support fundings go to arts for children. I don't think it will work, but it's sort of, it's the easiest way into the discussion. And it would be great if it was at least discussed on some levels. And because Detlef already said that so many companies really make all their income by traveling and by performing elsewhere, we have also addressed all the cities that have small cultural budgets, so that they don't cut these in the near future. So that's like the cultural policy thing. And we have also asked all our members to try to be politically active on a local level. So to find parents, teachers, young people, to speak for them, to say how they miss the theater, to come forward in newspapers, on social media, everywhere. So that it's not just always the artists saying we need help, but that it's also the audiences saying we want the theater back. So that is one. And then we have the other working group on the board. They work with the questions that Detlef also addressed, like what is happening to the arts, what is happening to theater, what is maybe also positive in these changes, what can we learn. So that's more of a long-term discussion, where we look at what is happening now and see how it leads into the future. And there are 3 main topics we're discussing at the moment, and that's children's rights. So we're trying to think also beyond theater, because at least in Germany, the public discussion ignores children's rights to a great extent. And children are not asked to participate in discussions, their opinions aren't asked, and no one asks about their ideas about solutions. So that's one thing. And the other is that we try to make it possible again for the theaters to cooperate with schools, because schools are such important partners, and they are at the moment sort of closing themselves up. They say we need to find ways to teach the kids, and everything else is not important. And we are trying to say everything else is also important, because these children have also gone through this phase and they need to deal with it. And the third is, of course, how can we open the theaters again? Like under which conditions? How can we keep distances and stick to all the rules and still work as theaters. That's maybe in short what we are discussing at the moment.
Yeah, I would add, so the problem of cultural education is it's because very of the theaters, or nearly every theater which is working for children and youngsters in Germany, is also adapted to the cultural education, and or in the participation of the children. And in this field we will have many problems for the upcoming next time, because we will have no access to the children and youngsters, because normally it's organized by the schools, or this collaboration with the school, and the school only will give this main fact branches, maths and English and German, and so there will be no place for cultural education. And on the other side, all the theaters who are working with children and youngsters, they will really have with this distance problem a problem, because it seems that this field, or this part of working with children, is the same situation as concerts. So because you cannot work with children on a distance, or you work only with 2 or 3 children in a theater group, or in the field of education and mediation. So video is no possibility in this, in trying to get some mediation. So another thing what was called in this crisis as a chance was to react on the climate, because all we experienced that there was no noise in the air, that there was the streets empty, and there was space for bikes, and we had this air photographs of non-polluted areas, and so this was recognized as a chance for the climate. And there also I heard about a theater in Germany which now used the time to reflect on sustainability, what should be the keyword for this conference. And so I think this discussion started before Corona. So we had, I can remember that there was an autumn meeting in which there was a big presentation about what can a theater do in sustainability, which will be the products we use, which how we organize all the stage design. Can we recycle the stage designs for further productions, and so on. And this discussion started in the governmental theaters, and yeah, maybe we can think about this, and it should be more as a sustainability disclaimer, which every theater has. So it also should follow in action.
Okay, I will just have a look to the chat, because the discussion is starting to boil. There are questions and things that maybe it's useful to share. There were 2 questions in the chat. First is a concrete one. 24 spectators due only to new law and protocols are because the audience didn't come, or because this is the maximum of capacity?
That's a maximum. So
okay.
It's a place for normally 110 persons, and okay. But the distance rules says 5 square meters for every visitor, and so it's only 24.
Okay, thank you. Then, but I will add something more to that question that I'm sure other people wants to know. Do you know what was the feeling? I mean, if there were 50 places, would it be audience, or there will be a fear of not going out or meeting out? I mean, the hidden question is, what about the feeling of audience with the fear of being, of taking the sickness, il contagio, come si dice? Do you have any information about that, the fear of the audience to come to see theater?
I think, at least for the Theaterhaus in Frankfurt, those first shows with a very few people, all the people who came are people who had been there before.
No, they were strange people, and that was surprising. But
then I don't know.
yeah. I also was surprised about that. But it's an intimate room, so it can work also with 24 people. But maybe it's another thing when you have a theater with 800 places and there will be 50 people. So in distance. So also in the last row, and yeah, I think it was for the people who came, it was a very strong experience. So and I think they knew what they have done. So it's not with fear, but they wanted to have this experience or this live theater again. So and they had the chance to come and to visit, and so they just joined in. I think it's like this. So because it was not very public, so it was more or less undercover that the theater was open again.
So I will go with Meke. You wanted to ask, add something on it. I had the feeling.
But just first of all, I have the general feeling that people are not so much afraid, but careful and insecure. Like and also parents are totally, they have reached the limits of what they can do. I think they are so longing for something from the outside that is not on a screen, that they are just really ready to accept also maybe stranger conditions, because they are so looking forward to doing something as a family or with other children that is not being at home, doing homeschooling or explaining rules or looking at another video. So it seems that it is really easy sort of to advertise theater as something attractive for families at the moment.
Okay, so the wish to go to theater, you think, is there. And they take it carefully, but there is not enough space. There was a question about practically how you arrange it, but Detlef answered. So if I understood well, the rule is 4 square meters for each person. This is what you need to guarantee. Okay, and what about the furniture on stage and the relation between artists? You have been speaking about a family group, but so did I understand well? This is the only experiment that they have done with a family group on stage?
Yeah, or solo, or when 2 persons are acting on stage, it is okay by the rules. And for example, the decision of the governmental theater here in the city was not to offer any show, because they are not able to by the rules. They cannot perform by the rules.
Staying in the rules. Okay. Yeah. We had last week we had an information about an experiment that they are doing in Netherlands about a group that have been quarantining themselves during a long period to be allowed to make rehearsal and to become a kind of a family. I mean, is the logic of the residences I mean, when we go as an artist in residency in another place, but extended to that situation. I mean, I'm just quoting it because it was something curious that was shared in the previous meeting.
The only thing I could mention at that is this is like the Bundesliga works in Germany. So it's a Bundesliga, so the football. They have all gone in quarantine for 2 weeks, and now they are giving this place, and everybody is irritated when they have a goal. They will touch everybody of the equipe, and all the rules are out, and so that is what could happen in such a family also. So sure, because when you are together and you develop a certain feeling, and you will follow this feeling, and you will touch yourself, touch the other. So.
Okay, this is a kind of interesting view, being at the same level of treatment or the same treatment of a football team. What about economics? Okay, but maybe that can be a scenario. So there was another question, or something that can be interesting for us as a model. You said that you have, in ASSITEJ Germany, you have been organizing the working group in regional groups, in regional approach. Can you tell us more about because in Italy, we are boot, long and small, and sometimes, and always, I will say, we are struggling about the north and south equity and things like that, because as you have seen, we have a big difference between how the north and the south react to everything. I will say, for me, the COVID was a kind of an information about the diversity, because we have had the hyper red zone in the north and the green zone in the south. So it's, for me, I mean, I'm not reading between lines, but it's just a statement of diversity, and we can't ignore. So.
But within ASSITEJ, we have 6 regional working groups. That because in Germany, culture is, all the rules for culture and all the rules for the schools are made on a federal state level. So there are 16 different funding schemes for culture and 16 different school systems. Of course, there are similarities, but it's and these regional working groups, they can react to decisions made in the regions, and they all run regional festivals. So if you are interested in a particular region in Germany, you can always go to a festival and meet the artists who work there. And I think they are doing really good work at the moment, because they spread all the information and they get everyone involved, because many people are, of course, desperate because they have no income. So there is this personal connection as well between people. And for us, it's easy because we then have, like, the board of ASSITEJ has meetings with the people who speak for the regional working groups. And so there is some personal contact there, and we can again spread information. And also people from these working groups are part of the board working groups. So we try to get people involved with their ideas, and also we try to learn from those that are successful, like Nordrhein-Westfalen, where Düsseldorf and Cologne and like the biggest federal state, they have a really good contact to the cultural administration, and we can often copy from them what they do, like the letters they write or the ideas they have. And also in this state, theaters are officially partners to the educational sector, so they have a status, they can be addressed, and so we try to copy this and steal it and take it to other regions.
Okay. Yeah, it's an interesting format. I will check the because there was another question maybe. Okay, no, I think I went through the questions that were in the chat. If there is anything I forgot, just raise your hands and
Yes, there's one question. There was one question in the chat about Tuki, which might be a bit mysterious to some of you. Tuki is a project that brings theaters and kindergartens together. So it's about cooperation of theaters with institutions where very small children are. And there was a question of whether it's still running. And it is. And actually, we hope maybe that kindergartens will be easier to address and to get into the theaters again than schools, because it might be easier to have smaller groups. It is less formal. It is not such a structured day. So that's maybe one reference to the chat.
Okay, thank you. And but my question is, I mean, this is a kind of general question that I will open also to everybody. We are in this moment aware of the fact that a lot of structure are struggling with sustainability. As you said, even in Germany, that you have one of the most effective system of supporting of art and theater. So, but also you are saying, okay, they will have problems. I mean, you said that Assitej is doing advocacy, and so you're doing all this kind of, but even you said, we will try to have the 25%, but I'm not sure if we reach to speak about that, it will be quite enough. So this is really not hope-giving. I mean, I feel like, what shall we do? I mean, which is the future? Do you think we will lose all those small structures? Because this is also the question we are facing in Italy. I mean, we had from the Ministry of Culture a kind of, please Italians correct me if I'm wrong, because even to understand what's going on, it's not easy, a kind of supplementary funding that is a kind of rainbow of money to small structures that is not helping them to live, to survive, and is anyway money spreading. And now they are kind of telling that we can open the theater, but with this reduced capacity, with this reduced number of production, or with production that needs to be rehearsed before going again on stage. For example, maybe you are a group that can work on your production and transform it in a in-distance show, but this will need time. That means that artists will work, not paid, because if the money is coming from the ticket selling, and that means that the emergency state is not there anymore. So we are kind of obliged to open. The feeling is like, okay, now you can open the theater. What do you want more? Go forward, work. This is the feeling that we have. So what shall we do? And my big question is, really, what can we do if the school system is not speaking with us? Because you are confirming that the relation is becoming more difficult because they have other burning issue, maths and Germany, and other things that are the urgency now. Then how can we do and so, I mean, this is really an open question to everybody, because you were so effective that we still have 15 minutes. So if anyone else, I see that there is Belgium and England and Russia there. And so if you, or Spain, if you want to add something or anything about best practice or point of view or approach on that, or even feeling, because this is my personal feeling. Kind of, this emergency state is finished, so go ahead, help yourself. We have even given money. Make it.
I just want to confirm that's exactly the way theaters feel in Germany. Like it's better to be closed and have a status quo than having this situation of, yeah, go ahead, you know, open your theater, perform, it's your responsibility, and you have, you know, so I think it is a threat, and we are not, I would love to be very hopeful that all this will sort itself out, but I'm not sure it will, because as I said, the culture budgets of the next few years will be possibly depressing. Berlin has already announced that they will go back to the level, cultural funding will be cut back to the level of 2011. So it's not as bad as you might think, because it doesn't go up this fast, but it's, but at the same time, like before this whole crisis, we were really struggling to get to a point where people working in theater for young audiences would get the same payment as in theater for adult audiences, and we are far from it. And if these cuts come, we can fight this whole struggle all over again. So what we're doing in a way, which is maybe not fair, and is that we are actually celebrating it, that the Minister of Culture in North Rhine-Westphalia has announced that maybe TYA is more important than theatre for adults at the moment. And of course, we don't want this scale sort of saying, let's take it from the other artists, but at least there's someone who's aware of some relevance. But it's going to be tough, I think. And also that's why we're advocating children's rights, because it's so easily forgotten, and children are only talked about as a burden for families and kids that don't go to school. So, and we hope that this argument might catch, but yeah, very difficult. No solutions.
So if anyone wants to take the floor, I will silence myself, because thank you, because this is I feel that the phase 3 will be a kind of really angry phase, because I'm like it's the second day, but I'm starting to be, the temperature is getting higher and higher, because I really have the feeling that that fact that we accepted about forgetting about children at home in this stay-at-home time, okay, this we accepted because we understand that that was for, we had no idea of anything else to propose. But now, I mean, now it's really, I really think that this is a time in which we can't be silent. We need to go to make a kind of real big revolution that will not be a big revolution. But my revolutionary part is really boiling inside, so please.
Can I say something?
Yeah, Claire was before you, but then we'll be happy to listen to you, Alain. And since we have like time that we can make a round of table of data, please try to be short and effective, better than me. Grazie.
I'll try to be short and effective. I just want to go back to sustainability. So so thinking about funding structures, the model that happened in England is that the Arts Council froze all grants and awarded £16 million rescue package for independent artists. That's artists that don't receive core funds, which is a competitive bid process. And those are rolling out, the outcomes of those are rolling out now. In addition to that, 90 million was awarded as a pot for what are called core funded organisations, for emergency funds to support them up to September. And then there were a series of individual grants of £2,500 that individual artists could apply for. Mm-hmm. We're now left with a budget of 47 million across all organisations and individuals for the rest of the financial year, which, if it opens again, I suspect, as the government's just extended the furlough scheme till October, that the furlough scheme is the government scheme for employees that are paid 80% of their salary if they no longer work. But that's just been extended to October. So I anticipate that the Arts Council funding will freeze for the rest of the financial year. There will be no opportunity to create new work. So all the fundings have been about emergency funds and sustainability. There was a little bit of leeway within that around imaginative ways of reaching new audiences, i.e. digital, and how you might within your emergency funds start thinking about some form of digital activity. But it was very clear this was about crisis funding, which was a really good decision, I believe. But the outcome of that now as we unfold is that what is the future? What happens next year? There's no art. There's no work. There'll be no work made. And then beyond that, what's interesting in response to what you were saying, Micah, is there's a movement now that's happening in England that I'm experiencing. This is anecdotal and through my networks, is a resistance to open venues until the audience experiences is how it used to be, and to value that audience experience and not just open for economic reasons.
Exactly. And this is something that, sorry, because really I'm not a good moderator today, because this is something that is, if the phase 2 was the phase of, come si dice, stare insieme, aiutatemi, solidarity, okay, I have even forgotten that word. Now it comes the jungle. Because there are people who are opening and you feel like, oh, you can open because you have, for example, a dance show that was taught in the distance, so you can make the show. And what about us? If you accept that, it's a kind of the same dynamic when there is strike. So everyone is taking his private benefit and we forget about solidarity. So this is definitely not a good moment. Maybe.
But interesting, what I suspect is a shift that's beginning to happen is that the business models of organizations that rely on ticket income and bar and food sales are absolutely driven to the ground. So we're seeing large organizations beginning to go into administration, which is really, really shocking and very hard, because obviously they support the cultural infrastructure as well as others. However, what is beginning to be demonstrated is that the organizations, ironically, that are more reliant on subsidy are more likely to survive if the subsidy still exists. They're not reliant on, so their economic model is 60% subsidy, 10% box of, whatever. But if the subsidy remains, those organizations will be able to survive. Whereas those organizations that have followed the advice and tried to be sustainable away from Arts Council subsidy are facing more financial risk because the lack of ticket income and bar sales is hitting them more quickly, because we have 4-year fixed funding programs here. So that Arts Council funding will remain constant, but the income crashes. So I think there's going to be a big shift in power and distribution over the future years. But then, with our Conservative government, who knows what our financial settlement is going to be from the Treasury. I mean, that feels very scary.
Alan?
Yeah. I'm wondering if I look closely what happens in France, and here we have no French delegates, festival director, nobody. So I feel I have to talk about my experience working in France, even if I don't live there. And I see that the system they adopted already many years ago about supporting artists and technicians, which is the intermittent du spectacle, why it could not be a model for other countries. I don't think about Germany, but more about Italy and Spain and England. A way to support artists and technicians of theater, cinema, and so on. Just but it's on the long term. It's not for tomorrow. It's a big fight. So they succeeded to create the intermittence in France many years ago, and it exists also somehow in Belgium. And I see that they are much, much more protected. They don't talk now about a sum of money to affront the crisis, but they're speaking about their status. I mean, they have a special status, and which is working 504 hours in 12 months. And when you work 504 hours in 12 months, you are able to get the support from that fund. So my question is, like in Italy, you want to fight.
Oh.
So maybe it would be the right time to try to get such a system.
Okay, I will not answer personally. Maybe we have like 5 minutes more or something like that. If there is someone else who wants to add, maybe from another country. Okay, Elena, you have the hands in front. See, Elena Tiren, and Bebe wants to say something.
Yes, just a very, very short answer to Alain, because the system in France is not that good as it seemed to be. It was very good before this situation. Now they have a very, very bad situation because they don't have a protection that goes further on. They don't have as our Cassa Integrazione or things like that. That doesn't exist in France for artists. Now I think they have started to discuss about it, to reorganize, but they were rather off at the moment of the start. I don't know any more than that, but they were very, very safe until everything went on as it should go on, and now the situation has changed. Just that. Unfortunately, they are not as happy as we thought.
Bebe wanted to add something on another direction. I will make just a kind of a reminder about the fact that I have the feeling that one of the difficulties is to collect informations about other countries. And our point of view sometimes is not that precise, because we experience that even in our country. For example, in Italy, if you ask to any one of us Italian people, we will answer you a different answer about how are the supporting, which is the system. You will have a picture that is a kind of Picasso, okay? It's not a naturalistic picture. And also the witness of Alain and Helena, that are people working with France, but not French people, I think have little differences. So my question is, how can we be together and react, not fighting, but resisting, or then taking benefits from the best practice for, as you said, for example, in CITES Germany, using best practice for those regions that are functioning well, to have a better dialogue with our institution, because I don't believe that institutions are bad. I'm not one of those, and they are there to do a bad job. They do the best they can. The most of the time they ignore. This is something that came out in one of the discussions in the previous meeting. This is the occasion in which we realize how much they ignore about our problems, about how we function. So just bear in mind that. Bebe.
Hi, everybody. Yes, I would like to, I'm trying to articulate a synthesis of what I'm thinking. I am seeing the whole international sector changing completely the priorities. Every table that I sit, I see festival directors of international festivals, of every kind of cooperation, saying, yes, we took the money from the international, we're putting back into the national, the survival of our companies, etc., etc. And I've also observed a connection with the sustainability in terms of ecological matters of our sector, which are real and exist, together with the COVID-19 challenges. And I fear that the main thing about international TYA is tolerance, empathy, nationalism. You know, it's like a vaccine against xenophobia, and we are not talking about this. It is being taught, yes, we talk now here 3 minutes, and then, okay, let's see what's more urgent now. And I'm afraid a whole part of the world, I say Latin America, but also Africa and other countries that were investing on the international touring for their survivals, because that's the sustainability there. There are no funds, there is no emergency funds, regular funds. It is not possible to wait for 2 years or 3 years to start again talking about this, to build these bridges again. So Mike, I'm so happy you're here, because all the concept of fair cooperation, of fair mobility funds, of sharing a little bit of these structures that exist in Europe, in Germany, in Europe, in Canada, with those who depend on this to survive, to do their artistic work. So this is a topic I really would like, every day you talk about the national, think about the international too.
Thank you, Bebe, for remembering us this point of view that is, let's say, a priority about of the festival, because even if they are national festival, they need to deal with the international scenario. There are a few information in the chat that I'm sure that you will look at and be more informed. There will be a report in Italian of this meeting, and we are maybe trying to have a report in English too, because we started, thanks to Asipej International, to have a writing in English of what we have said. So maybe we will have an English one if it has been functioning. Anastasia is struggling with Louis on it, so thank you, Anastasia. There was one question I was looking, oh no, it was not a question. It's Yannick from Belgium. In the chat, he's telling that he needs to leave. But the important thing is that he's telling that in Belgium, so far, only class primary and secondary school have restarted. Next week, another class will reopen for secondary schools. But then the rest of classes of primary school and kindergarten will most certainly only reopen in September. That is more or less what's happening in Europe. Thank you, Bebe, for putting on the floor this word, priorities. I mean, we need to keep together and to work on priorities, and we need to do it quickly and to be all together as much as we can, knowing that, dear colleague, we are one of the most biodiverse sector in the world and in the economical system. We are based on our diversity, and it's really complex to set a strategy that can unify us, or has, I mean, when it's a kind of wrong strategy. If we start from trying to be together and unify our priorities, it's impossible. So we need to find a strategy that is based on diversity and find a way and to make statements of our need in the society, because it looks like this is a great occasion to make the people understand how useful is our work. I will launch the pause on it because it's a reflection, a provocation I have in my brain from the beginning. Can you tell me which category have been giving during the lockdown his job for free to the society? Just tell me one. I mean, no, I'm not speaking about volunteers in the hospital and all this that have been doing a huge work, and we thank them, but I'm not speaking about volunteers. I'm speaking about a category, an economical category that is giving his professional work for free to the society to overcome this emergency. If you can tell me one, I'll be happy, but I think the only one is art. So now let's go for the recap. Anastasia will tell you the names of the group that was, of the people that were with you, and the reporter will take the floor.
Group 1 with Alain, Bruno, Chiara, and Delga.
Okay, so very fast the report, even if the group was extremely interesting, and we find out that Alain speaks better Italian than us. So we had the chance to discuss in Italian, and we have many different examples. Like in France, they can do rehearsals already, but theater are not open. So quite different, and they will not be till October. So they are in a creative process, but they have a direct connection and communication with institutions. So probably they will be an example of sustainability in the close future, because they are since 1 month talking about that. But also in the north of Italy, we have many examples, like for example, Piemonte dal Vivo, that is a private association, at the beginning of the emergency put 500,000 euro for creating small seasons next year, minimum 5 shows. And it was
circuito,
possible.
Bruno.
What?
È il circuito.
Yes, sì.
A regional circuit, let's say.
The regional circuit. Very good. Thank you, Chiara. And for example, in Bolzano, that we know they have a special region in Italy, they already are preparing some drafts for restart working with young audiences and for young artists. So in the chat, you can find a draft of this process that Bolzano municipalities did together with the school institutions for next year, from September on. So it was very, very interesting.
Okay, good. Group 2 with Bebe, Carlotta, Elena, Raffaella, and Rosanna. Who wants to do the report?
Bebe, the microphone. Bebe.
No, it should be. Hi, you listen?
Yes.
Okay. So in our group, we also made a mixture of Spanish, Portuguese, and Italian. So sometimes I can feel I can speak Italian, so it's wonderful. So we had some key phrases because, keywords is not my strength. So we had unite networks for the advocacy, also to reflect on the economic and artistic challenges. We realize our work deals with the future directly. We're dealing with the future. Risk-taking is more important than ever for us, but also for the public, literally and also metaphorically. So a dialogue to listen to the public about their opinion on the new normal. How do they feel to be in an empty theater? The air is different, the whole response is different. And for last, we should explore the limits where we can arrive, understand together how to surpass this moment. We are all in this together. We cannot find a solution for sustainability by ourselves.
Okay, thank you. Group 3 with Amalia, Detlef, Giuditta, Maria Giulia, and Olga. Who wants to start?
Yeah, I will summarize it quickly for our group. We have all agreed that sustainability has two important aspects, economical and ecological. It's very difficult to combine the two because very often what is efficient economically is not very efficient ecologically and vice versa. So the ways out of our difficult situations could be small-scale performances on open air. And then we had this great idea from Detlef, like carnival platforms, theater on trucks, and so on, when theater companies can perform throughout the city in a couple of places, several performances a day, and keeping their audiences quite small and in different locations. Then we had an idea, in order not to make the audiences too depressed, providing them some kind of protective measures that could be artistically and aesthetically integrated into the concept of the show. Not to make everybody depressed with the medical masks. We also had an idea of reconnecting with our small audiences after the show to get their feedback, reconnecting online with maybe in the Zoom format or in kind of other online formats to make sure we still do have the connection to our audience in these difficult times. And we all, unfortunately, we all agreed that we are not coming out of it very soon. That's it.
Thank you. And group 4 with Andreas, Cristina, Giovanna, and Silvia. Who wants to do the report?
Okay, can do it. Actually, we discussed on emergency, and we realized that basically emergency has not finished yet. And someone said it has just started. I was in the group with Giovanna, Cristina, of course, from Italy, and Andreas from Holland. And one shared point was that we need to focus on 3 keywords: the emergency, sustainability, and the sharing. Emergency, because we need to set on the priorities. Which are the priorities now? Now it's the most difficult time which we need to rethink in a local, national, and international view. We need to establish alliances, both on the side of colleagues in our sector and with other partners, maybe from the profit sector or other sectors who were also affected in society, but what's going on. And we need to think in a what I call the AZ plan. So we need to think at a plan which is not stable, because we see regulations changing day by day, and to be ready, you know, to change to this kind of shifts. So many examples were given, for example, tourism, for example, alliances with commerce, but still we need to be aware that we are not clowns, so we're not commercial clowns. So even in having this kind of partnerships and relationships, we need to set on the priorities first. And then we shifted a little bit the discussion on sustainability. So in terms of the time we are now going through, it's a time of disillusion. It's a time where, for example, in Holland, many examples were brought in terms of the lack of solidarity and the fact that we need to be aware and to go back to our role as artists. One of the issues, for example, is the body dimension, the body as central in terms of also how to share experiences. Another example was given as a platform, for example, by Giovanna, who is trying in her work to reconnect bodies and different experiences, working on dance with the focus of dance, but in these terms. And finally, we also talked about the importance of sharing on the international level, and how sharing can really be the final, way to learn the lesson once forever, actually, and to, for example, rethink at how we attend festivals. So, for example, a proposal was to think at touring in festivals with in-between stops. So I go to Japan, but before getting to Japan, I can have in-between stops in which I can, have other meetings and other practices and experiences. And the second one is make digital an opportunity to attend festivals now for those who cannot afford it live, digitally. So just trying to have digital as another kind of opportunity, actually, to rethink at networking.
Thank you, Silvia. And then the last group is the group 5 with Jessica, Lorenzo, Maria, Marta, and Meike.
Here I am. We found 4 keywords that are responsibility/risks, who takes the responsibility and also the risk for make the rule of social distancing be respected during the events, the show in the theater. They cannot be operators. And some governments, some municipality ask, as Lorenzo, for example, said in Fermo, his town hall, asked us to take the risk and the responsibility for make the rules, make the people respect the rules. And
for shows in open spaces.
Yes, and it's not fair for us. So responsibility, risk. The second keyword was lack of rules, lack of clear rules, and the presence of strange rules, because we need clear and specific rules for the needs of our sector, such as, for example, families that can be together during a show, and we cannot separate children for their parents, while now government ask us to separate the children from 7 years old up from their parents. It's silly, it's crazy, you understand. And there is, and also connected to this lack of rules, the necessity to obtain clear rules and the responsibility for making institutions understand our needs. It's our duty, we think, because as Cristina said before, governments doesn't know enough about our sector. So it's our duty to make them understand our needs, specific needs. And the other one is waiting or inventing, that it means it is better for us to wait to open theater, to restart it with activity, to wait for the public and the artists that can return to live the theater experience as before the COVID crisis, or do we need to invent new ways to reopen now? And if we decided to wait, is there a risk that someone else could restart the activities instead of us, like we thought, amateurs? And the last keyword was obviously sustainability. So Jessica said that we need a public aid for our economies in time of reduced audience, of course. And we have to push municipality and regions and governments to understand that if we have to reopen and restart now at 15th of July, we need a great support, economical support, because otherwise it's unsustainable.
Yes, if can I can add something. What is very important for us to underline is that public municipalities, also the little ones, has to think that aids to culture is a duty, is a public duty. So not just to aid in this moment of no action, but aid us to do actions, to do cultural things for children and families, to cover where we cannot arrive. For example, as Marta said, when you have to reduce public and you have not enough tickets to obtain, but for example, doing more open space events also for free, sustained by municipalities. So a very important step in this moment can be summer, can be open space events in open space to start in some way our work, our job.
Very well, a lot of ideas. I'm happy that we are not going to fight, but we are just having ideas. So if there is anyone that wants to add something, just open your microphone and take the floor. And otherwise, we will meet us in the next meeting. And in this week, we will have a meeting with the chain reaction group, isn't it, colleagues? Is that week? So if you want to tell us any, I'm just repeating myself, but just to trigger your reaction, any suggestion about this format or how we can transform it, because I really think that this sharing and international networking and use the connection between international network to better share and better find solution. For me today, it's really one of the keywords I bring with me and I will work on. Is there anyone that wants to add something?
I would like to add, because you're from the Italian part that is hosting these meetings, please consider starting in the afternoon, because I have talked about you in a North America, South American context, and it's really early, 10:30 in the morning, -6. For Vancouver, it's -9.
Yep.
So it is really a challenge with the time. If you can have some meetings in the afternoon, I am... Festival directors and artists, they're very curious and willing to talk to you. Yes.
We will try to move the meeting at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That looks to be a more sustainable time zone for everybody. What do you think about that? Are you curious?
Yes, good. 2 o'clock is good. Yeah, then when you start going to the other side of the world, then you have to have 2 meetings. That's like Acitesh.
We will reflect on it on Thursday together, the 6 chain reaction partners with Acitesh Italia, and then we will start, in case the communication, just to let you arrange your agenda to be available, to be free if you want to be together with us, because we know that when you change the schedule is always a fragile time. Marta, you want to say something or just no? Okay. Okay. So thank you, Detlef and Meke, for telling us about your country and sharing your intelligence. And see you next Tuesday.